am Negan.
I am Negan.
I am Negan.
What's up, people? Welcome to another episode of I Am Negan, a TWD Universe podcast. And today, or I should say tonight's episode that we will be reviewing is World Beyond, episode 4, The Wrong End of the Telescope. Alright, so again, quick little thank you for everybody that's subbing up and that's enjoying this and following us and watching or listening to our reviews over on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify. Thank you. Thank everybody. That was great. I'm just glad a lot of people care about just The Walking Dead, the franchise in general, right? So, yeah, thank you. Thanks, everybody. I am your host, Adam Vale. I'm joined by Dana Abercrombie.
Hello, everyone. Thank you.
There we go. And Richard Bailey Jr.
Yes, good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. And depending on if you're following on the other sites, like I mentioned, iTunes or Spotify, we're all from the Koalition. That's with a K, thekoalition.com. So you can go over there and you can see all the other stuff that we put together, content, game reviews, all kinds of things. So just in case, because I was getting some messages before about that. They were like, oh, where are you guys doing all this stuff? Where's this all coming from? It's like, oh, yeah, I guess I should mention that. I mean, if you're on YouTube, you just find it from the Koalition. But if you are from the other sites, I can get that. So anyway, let's get into this. This was an interesting episode. This was a very Halloweenish episode, I would say. Because the situation and how it all takes place in one location. But before we jump the gun, let's just get right into it. Now we're with the group. They're all together. We got Huck. We got Felix. We got Iris, Hope, Elton, and am I missing anybody? I think
Silas.
And Silas. That's right. So they're all together. And this is where Iris says, all right, listen, we're going to follow the map. We know that the Civil Republic, they're upstate New York somewhere. So let's just head to the interstate. There's a lot of back and forth trying to figure out if this is a good move. They're getting concerns. And then Silas is like, hey, everything's gonna be all right, and he puts a little smile on his face. And what we started talking about, maybe he's a serial killer. This is it. He has his weapon. He should just kill everybody right there. That would just change the tone of the show. Just go crazy because they were like, "Why is he so happy? Why is he smiling?" You know. But whatever. That wasn't the key part of this little segment. The key part is as they're walking the group, we got Husk and Felix sort of staying back, and they're trying to strategize on who they can try to turn, because Felix still wants this group to go back to the university. He's not down for this trip at all. You know, even though he said in the prior episode, don't worry, I got it, I'm going to help you. That's BS. He's ready to go back. So now they're trying to figure out who they can flip, and they pretty much agree that they're going to try to flip Elton. They think Elton pretty much has nothing to gain from this trip, and that maybe he's just tagging along for the ride. So they're going to try to figure that out. But as they're trying to figure this back and forth, we hear Iris scream out, hey, I found something. They run over. We see a fence. And on the other side of the fence, dun, 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 it's a high school, an abandoned high school. Felix was like, oh, this is good. Maybe it'll have supplies. It's out in nowhere. I'm like, I wouldn't consider a high school out in nowhere. Abandoned building, a warehouse, yes. You know, but a high school, I don't know about that. But I do agree it should have supplies, right? Pantries and things, especially if it has a cafeteria. But right here, that scene that they showed where it's like you see the fence and it zooms out and you see the school and they're like, oh, here we go. I'll just start off the questions right now. What did you guys think? What did you expect? How did you feel about knowing that, all right, this episode is going to take place in a high school? Rich, you go first. What did you think of this?
Oh, well, I mean, I personally think it was a great decision to go this route because, you know, as it is alluded to later in this episode, you know, we know these characters, as Dana said before, they have lived a sheltered life for most of their life, but they haven't really encountered these types of experiences, whether it's being at a high school or participating in a dance and basically interacting with everybody as if, you know, everything is good and right in the world. You know, obviously, they're in a very different situation now because this takes place 10 years after what happened initially. So, yeah, I thought it was a good decision to have them in this environment because again, in the case of Iris and Hope, they were forced to grow up in a different way from all the stuff that that Hope has seen and took a part of as a kid. I mean, that's a little bit of a loss of innocence right there. So I think it was a good decision for them to have this, just so that they can have that visual of how it might have been if they were in high school. That's just my personal opinion.
All right. Yeah, well, we're going to get into that. There's a lot of that. What about you, Dana? What did you think of this whole setup, that this is going to be the location for the episode? Kids, and ta-da-da, the first place they find is high school.
Honestly, I didn't think of that way. About the loss of innocence and how different they grew up, say, to a regular high school, until Richard just said that. I thought that the university and campus where they came from would kind of have something similar to that, with prom dances. The fact that it was so secure, that they would have kind of allowed them to have what we had, well, what we have now. I've never even thought of that, so that is a really great observation. For me, I at first didn't really think anything of it, because I'm like, oh, we just went from one campus and now we're in a high school. But as we later see through this show, that it's a really special what if kind of feeling that the kids have, of learning of what kind of life and school experiences would be if we had a regular normal high school experience in a regular normal world.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get into it. There's a lot that happens here that we sort of, they dive deep into how these kids are actually raised and what they're experiencing, I should say, over at the university. Because we only saw like 2 glimpses in the first episode of Iris in class and that type of thing. We don't really know that type of experience. But here we get a lot more of that. So now the group, they approach the school, they go inside. There's one quick little, again, play on the whole Halloween horror theme. Everyone else goes in. Silas is the last to go in, but he hears a thunderstorm. He looks up at the sky. You see its clouds are forming, and it's doom and gloom. So pretty much saying that once they go in, they're going to stay in for the remainder of the episode. Because right now there's no point in just going outside. A storm is coming. So that was interesting. So once they get in there, it's a traditional high school, and I like to note, just in case if no one did see it, really watch the episode before. There is a lot of spoilers if you haven't guessed it. But anyway, you guys know it was daylight. And I thought that was kind of cool, because that usually when we see these type of situations in movies and TV shows, it's nighttime, right? It's nighttime, run for shelter. Oh, go to that abandoned building there, and break out the flashlights. Well, that doesn't happen. It's daylight, but they do take the flashlights out, and there is a storm outside. So Felix decides, hey, listen, we're in here. Let's try to find some supplies. Iris comes up with an idea that we usually hear as a no-no in all of these things. If you even watched any of the Scream movies, she says, hey, let's split up. Right? That's like the last thing you do during these type of situations, but they agree. They're going to split up into groups of 3. Well, 3 groups there. We got Huck and Hope. We got Iris and Silas, and we have Felix and Elton. And as we know from the beginning of this episode, Felix's goal is just to try to turn and flip Elton to just let's go back. All right, so the next scene we see is a pretty interesting one, because I wasn't sure about what was going on here. And it looked like it was a scene of a girl walking through high school, which was most likely that school. And she sort of gives like a little glance at a guy who's walking by, and he gives her a glance, and they're smiling, whatever. And then it like zooms out, and we see it was Iris looking at an image of like a flyer or something. Was that what I was saying? Correct, right? That was it. Felix?
Yes.
I called Dana Felix. Felix? Hey, Felix! That's what it was, right? She was looking at something, and she was envisioning her own, because I'm like, this is, at first it threw me off. I'm like, wait, do I know? Are we supposed to know these kids? Or are we going to, maybe we're going to encounter these kids as empties, or maybe we're going to find, I don't know. It was weird.
It wasn't weird at all. It was to show you the life of the school before everything happened.
But we know that. We didn't need to see that part.
Yes, we do need to see that, because you have the kids who never grew up that way. And it tells you what ends up happening. So it's very important.
I agree 100% with what Dana said, and I will also add in the fact, when you will get into it later, that even Huck was telling Hope how things was when she was in school. So all of that was done to reinforce this is how things used to be. Because again, this generation did not grow up in that world, so I think they had to really emphasize that if they were going this route with the whole high school thing.
Yeah, yeah, and then that leads into the next part. So the next scene we have is Huck and Hope, and they're walking down the halls. They have their flashlights. Hope is looking through the lockers along the sides of the hallways, and she finds some glasses, old school glasses that look like something out of a Devo video, from the Whip It. And she's like, "Oh, look at this!" And she puts them on, and she starts goofing on it. And she's like, "Did you ever wear these?" And Huck was like, "Well, I'm not going to deny it, but." Yeah, I mean, that was a thing. And then I was thinking about, I'm like, well, I guess so. 10 years? Yeah, but it's even older than 10 years, those glasses. I mean, even 10 years prior to that, people weren't rocking those glasses.
The glasses look like it was something out of the 80s. And
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's like it's further back. So maybe Husk, because Huck, I don't know how old she is. What do you think? Maybe late 20s?
I thought she was in her 30s.
You think she's in her 30s? Yeah.
No, I don't know. I'm bad at ages. I thought she was in her 30s.
Yeah. She's within that little period there. And we'll just stick with it. There's another little part that they bring up, and Hope is asking her about her father. It's like, hey, what about your dad? And since, Huck, you were in the military, was he proud? And it sounded like they had one of those awkward relationships. Dad didn't really know how to show affection type of thing. But we'll cut from that one, because there's a lot of jumping to these three groups, as this would normally happen in these type of episodes. So the next one is with Felix, and we see Felix and Elton, and they're the same thing. They're wandering around, and they get into a room, and they find a bunch. It looks like a science lab, and I had some issues with this because, and I brought this up before we started recording. The first thing Felix is like, "Hey, all right, look around for anything that can retain water," because they know the storm's coming, and they want to see if they can fill up some jugs and stuff like that that way they can hold the water. But he says, "Oh, go look around here and see if you find some beakers and other canisters." And I'm like, that's the last thing, or the last room you want to use those type of things to retain water. You don't know what kind of chemicals or testing they were using these things. You can't assume that they cleaned all these things out. I would say, you know what, let's go into another room, or maybe we find some of these things and find some cleaning solutions before we try using it. I don't know, overthinking it maybe, but I just think in real world situations, that's the first thing that would come up. I don't know, real quick, what do you guys, did you think did you pick that up, or that wasn't a big issue when he said?
No, it wasn't a big issue at all. I didn't even think of it. Maybe I'm not a chemist, but I was going to assume, it's kind of just been there for a while. You just rinse it out and keep it moving. Even with some rainwater, you keep it moving. At this moment, they don't really have an opportunity to be picky and choosy over what they're going to get. So,
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. But also, Elton takes out his camera and starts taking pictures. And I wonder, we don't know, and I guess, again, that's me overthinking with the facts. How much film does he have left? What's going on with that? You know what I mean? It's like, where are you getting this film? What kind of film are we dealing with here? It's like, it's definitely not Polaroid. So he's not using those. I don't know. I just have a lot of questions. And later on I have questions also with Silas and his Walkman. What about the batteries? But all right, so a lot of, like I said, you guys seen the episode. Everybody's seen the episode. There's a lot cutting back and forth. And then we get back to over with Hope and Husk. And we get a flashback here. This is the first flashback that we get, seeing Hope with her father having a conversation. It looks like she got into some trouble with some stink bombs, but she said it really wasn't a stink bomb. She was doing some kind of experiment. And this is where we get some interesting information. She says, "I'm sorry if I'm the letdown and if I'm disappointing you, and you got I'm just paraphrasing, like the bad apple or the wrong pick." And that's when we find out that her and Iris were adopted. And that they were adopted together. They were both infants in a crib. According to the daddy, said they shared a crib. And that's when they decided to adopt both of them. They were like, we're not going to separate. You guys are great together. And you'll always be together. And so did that. They decided to adopt both, and that clears up a lot, right? Because I mean, we knew something was going on. Somebody was adopted, or maybe there was a second marriage involved, and there was a child from a second marriage. There was some kind of something to explain what's going on here. But now we know. So, what did you think of this explanation of the sisters, Hope and Iris, and their connection with the parents? Rich.
Yeah, I mean, I actually thought that information was known from the first episode. Even if it was not explicitly said, I thought it was pretty obvious.
Why?
When they said that they were sisters. I said, well, yeah, obviously somebody is adopted.
But
I guess the surprise is that to know that they're both adopted.
Well, I thought I didn't. No, I got that information, but I thought that it was from like maybe a second marriage. It was something like that. That I didn't really go the adopted route because I'm thinking this current situation. Things are crazy and people are just, people die and then they find others, and maybe something happened and his first wife passed away and he remarried, and he had a kid, or she already joined the marriage with a child. That's everything. I don't know. That's what I was thinking. See, there we go. All right.
It threw me.
What was that, Dana?
It threw me completely. Because from what I thought one kid was from one parent, one kid was from the other one, and they just kind of was together since they were kids.
That's what I'm saying. There you go. You thought it was one of those merged families.
So not only that, but it surprised me when the father and his race, because in my mind I thought, well, we saw the mother and she was black.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, oh well, then the husband's white. That was just my assumption, and then I saw the father. I'm like, "Oh, what's going on?" So, yeah.
Yep. And one of I guess it was worth noting one little part that when they got into that science room, Felix picked the lock, and I was like, "That is a useful tool," but he doesn't pick any other locks, and I just felt that when you're passing all these rooms, and there was a lot of closed doors rooms, just start picking all of them. Then check all of them. No?
Are you serious? No. If you're sitting around with a bunch of zombies and a dog and a cat.
Well, see, no, we don't know anything about the wolf. We didn't get there yet.
Okay, but just in general, we know that zombies exist. For me, that takes me back to remember the very first scene from The Walking Dead proper, where there was like, "Do not enter dead inside."
Yeah.
And it was that locked door. I'm not opening.
Well, we did see those signs. There were similar signs put up in this school.
Right. So I don't know what's behind every door. So I'm not like opening up everything. Same thing goes with that locker.
But if we're gamers, we play games. If you hear a bunch of monsters in a room, you're like, you know what? If I clear that room out, there's probably going to be some treasure. That's usually how. We just covered last episode of Fear the Walking Dead. It was the same type of thing. It was like, what's in there? There's treasure, right? That's what they said. Clear this warehouse out. We got some treasure. There was no treasure, but still, they did it. So anyway, right at the end of that part, and I don't know. I guess it just had some issues with this episode. Right at the end of that part, they notice when they go back in the hallway, they see a blood trail. And it was like, oh, wait, what's this? I don't know. There's something there. And they also find a bunch of bodies ripped up, but they're turned into empties. And they're all in this little pile-up section. And Felix was like, oh, what's this? And he was like, you think an empty did this? Like, no, something else did this. Clearly, it was an animal attack. I thought that was obvious. I didn't think there was a monster, but I figured. And we do hear, like, growling noises. And I'm sure they hear that, unless that was just for us, the audience. But the hallway wasn't that long. If you look at the trail, when the camera pans and you see it was going from the right from the room, and you see it turn the corner, but you hear the growl. So yes, something is going on, but it sounded like an animal. I don't know. Did you guys pick that up? It sounded like an animal. Did you think it was an animal, or did you think it was like, oh, this is a monster? This is a monster episode.
I thought it was some form of hyper zombie.
Hyper zombie.
Yeah. Just like if you've ever played Resident Evil or any horror game, I thought that was going to be the introduction of a new creature that they were going to have to deal with. So I must confess, when I saw what it was a little bit disappointed.
Oh, yeah. But you know what they think about it? But if you think about it, in the Walking Dead universe, at least regarding into the shows, and now you think about it, even in the comics, we've never seen a hyper zombie. They've never
Yeah.
introduced a souped up version. It's like, oh man, it's one of those. I thought in Fear they were going to do that a few seasons back when they found blanking on her name, but they found the woman over at the nuclear power plant, the scientist. And I was like, oh, this is it. We're going to find out. She was doing some experiments, and some people got mutated from the nukes, and now they're all super crazy. But no, that never happened. But one of the other cool things right before this scene, when we move on, is just that we don't see it get put to use, but Elton finds some iodine, and he's like, yeah, now we can use this to clean water when we actually do go out there. So there goes that. All right, so now this is where it starts getting a little more interesting. Because when we cut back to them, they continue on with the whole Felix situation. And this is where Felix starts telling Elton, he's like, hey, listen, let's go back. Let's get ready. Let's just what's the point of carrying on? This is dangerous. Don't you see how crazy this is? We shouldn't do this whole thing. He's really trying to convince him. And Elton's just, I don't know. I guess he's sort of leaning in. I feel that he's playing dumb for some reason. I don't think Elton really has any intentions of going back, because he told him, it's like, hey, I'm doing this for the adventure, and this is what I want to do when I'm out here. This is living my life, as opposed to just doing everything at the university. So I don't know. It was like a little back and forth. He was trying to pull him in, and at the same time, they see this blood trail, and they're following it, and then they decide, Felix decides to call Silas, because I guess that he's the only other one with the walkie-talkie, and he can't get through to him. So when this happened, I don't know, again, this is how I'm seeing this episode. And I guess that's a good thing for the show, because I noticed all three of us are getting different points and taking away different elements of this and seeing it in a different perspective. Because once he started calling Silas and he couldn't get a hold of Silas, I'm like, oh, Silas, turn the shit off. He's going to kill Iris. This is it. We kept talking about how crazy he is, and we're assuming that he's obsessed with Iris. This is it. Now he gets her alone. But remember, it was Iris's idea to pair up with Silas. She grabbed him. She's like, all right, I'm going with Silas. And she just took off. This is it. We're going. But anyway, he can't reach her. So real quick, before we jump on the next segment, it's a long segment, and we'll just drill through it. But from that scene, did you guys pick anything up? Did you think anything when he couldn't get a hold of Silas on the walkie-talkie? Dana?
No, not at first. I think they were just trying to create tension. I didn't think they were gonna start killing off characters right now. So for me, I thought it was just, it was one of those kind of spooky situations, the dark hallways in the school. So I just thought they was just doing that. And in regards to the whole oh my gosh, I can't pronounce his name.
Silas. Mm-hmm.
Silas and Iris. If you remember the last episode at the end, remember they was walking and he kind of put her under the coat?
Yeah.
And she gave like the little googly eyes. So I wasn't really surprised about their pairing.
Yeah. What about you, Rich? Did you pick anything up with this, the walkie-talkie not working? Did that trigger anything, or you were like, whatever?
Well, no, I figured that, again, like Dana said, you have to build tension. The group is separated. You already said you thought they should have stayed together, but in the traditional Walking Dead format, it's always about people splitting up into different groups. So they kept that the same for this show as well, from what we've seen so far. So no, I wasn't really surprised about that. I will add on to what Dana said. Yes, we kind of already knew that Iris and Silas were going to be paired together, and I would also say it was also suggested that perhaps Hope and Huck were going to be paired together in the previous episode, because Huck was the one that was trying to talk to Hope and get her to open up after the group had found each other when they had that scene where they were outside fishing. So yeah, but the whole thing with the walkie-talkie not working, or no response, yeah, I figured that might happen. It's a little bit of tension. And then again, you don't really know how good the signal is going to be, because they're in different rooms and all this other stuff. So, but yeah, I figured that was going to probably happen.
Yep. So then, speaking of that, now we get with Iris and Silas, and we see where they are, and they're walking around. Same type of thing. Now they have their flashlights. It's dark. They're trying to figure things out. Look around. They come across, what was it? It was a walker that was in a locker, or maybe that's the other group. I think it was one of the group. I found it interesting. That was like, well, someone was stuffed in a locker and they turned. Was that their intention, or is that just a play on the whole thing of bullies putting a nerdy kid in a locker? But whatever. Now this is where it gets kind of fun with this whole story here, where Iris finds a picture of a Sadie Hawkins. Well, it was a flyer for a Sadie Hawkins, and for those who don't know, that's a dance, a school dance. And she starts talking about it. I was like, oh wow, this would be cool to be part of a dance. I wish I would have done some of this. And I was thinking about it because I guess they don't have that. Maybe there aren't that many kids back at the university. They never really talked about that. We never. What, Dana?
I was gonna say I don't know if it's because I can't say they train them with this kind of military style where there isn't any fun and games, but it kind of seems that way since they don't have school dances or with lockers and hallways and science rooms like that. So I honestly don't know what kind of education aside from lecture halls that the kids get. So yeah.
Well, you would have to think it's probably a strict upbringing. You just gotta imagine, let's say what we go through now. There's certain countries that just deal with constant war. And so everyone is brought up in a certain manner that it's like, don't be too relaxed out there in this world. Focus on your studies, focus on what matters. Don't focus on the leisure part of things, of just hanging out all the time. That doesn't get you anywhere. And just prepare for the future. And maybe that's what's going on at this university. Maybe they are very strict. I mean, when we heard the whole thing earlier on with Hope doing with the stink bombs, really she was doing a science experiment, but she felt like she's letting him down, and she feels like she's the loose cannon. And that's also how Felix had described Hope. It was like, oh yeah, she's always doing these wild things. She's that person, but we don't know. It sounds like it's just her. It doesn't sound like there's a crew of them. So maybe she is breaking away from that. We don't know how strict it is. That's pretty much it. We don't know. There wasn't a lot to go off of besides those 2 or 3 flashbacks of Felix training them on how to fight and survival techniques and stuff like that. So, all right, so let's move on. Let's see, where are we? Because there was a lot of back and forth. Oh, so yeah, well, Iris and Silas. So they get into a gymnasium, and they want to go through it to get to another area, but then they see that there is a walker behind there. I assume there was more than one walker because they were sort of panicking, and I heard a lot of banging and stuff. And then they go to another door, and that one is just shut. It's like welded shut. This is the one that they think leads to the teacher's lounge, and they can get some supplies. But they were like, oh, water damage, can't go through. She tries to call Felix on the walkie-talkie, right? And we find out when Silas opens it up, oh, nope, the batteries are rusted shut. He said, well, they're water damaged. How did that happen? Weren't they not using these walkie-talkies just in the last episode, right? They had them. That part I didn't understand, and I was like, did I miss something? When did they damage these walkie-talkies? They were in constant use.
It was raining.
Yeah, but it's not like they had them out. They had them in their pockets or in their bag or whatever. I don't know. I just felt it was very awkward for somebody, especially like Felix, who is all about prepping and wanting to keep people safe and strategizing and all this stuff, and not to check the batteries to see, or not take care of the walkie-talkies because he was the one handling them. I don't know. So I guess then again, I'm thinking too much into it. You saw nothing wrong with that?
No, I think it was just a matter of convenience. It's raining as a flood. Remember the whole thing with the door.
All right, Rich.
I just will make a comment. I don't think that you're thinking too much about any of this other stuff. I just think, once again, the whole point of this particular show is for them to just talk about the journey with these characters. I don't think they care too much about these other details because they figure it's just you being used to get them from point A to point B because really this episode is about, once again, Felix trying to convince Elton to join, to get on their side. So I think they just wanted to focus on the key points, and therefore all the other stuff they don't want to dive into. But I don't think you're thinking too much about it. I
guess because I don't know. I really don't know. Because I'm trying to think back, and I guess maybe Walking Dead to a point does the same type of thing where they don't they don't go into every little detail. Like, still, with the flashlights, where do they get all these flashlights? It's like, I don't know. Hope had her flashlight and the batteries didn't work. All of a sudden now she seems to have some new double D's or whatever because the batteries are working. And she's using her flashlight. Where did she obtain new batteries? Whatever. You know what I mean? Because remember, it stopped working on her in the last episode.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. These are things I think about. Whatever. So, the next scene we jump into, we got Husk and Hope. Now, sort of like with the Felix and Elton, Huck, I keep saying Husk. Huck is over there trying to convince Hope to turn back. Like, hey, we shouldn't be doing this, and the whole thing. They're doing a little back and forth. But the key segment here, the key point from this, is another flashback. And this is where we see Hope and her dad, and we find out that this is during the time where Dad is preparing to go on this trip to the Civil Republic. And she's like, why are you going? Why are you doing this? Don't go. We don't trust them. And he's like, well, they sound like good people. They want to help. They want to evolve and try to progress in this crazy world. And I want to be part of it. I want to help them. And a weird choice of dialogue for Hope here that made no sense. And I didn't even pick this up. Again, it throws all these different things, whether good or bad. It just throws me in a loop. When she says, I'll try to do better. I'll try to be better. As if like, oh, he's leaving because of her. And I didn't get that at all. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Really? Because you did a stink bomb or something? You think that's enough? You're not starting fires. You're not, the high school, whatever, troublemaker picking fights and shit. It just felt very out of place that she would say something like that.
Well, actually, I don't think that is out of place because the whole thing with that situation is that, what we know about the whole character from episode 1. She does these things. I guess acting out, so on and so forth. Just does these things, gets in trouble, and then she just has an issue with that. So when they showed earlier in this episode the flashback with her dad in that whole conversation, all that told me is that, yeah, this is what essentially happened with that whole situation. Is that she was still remembering what she did wrong, and
do you think the dad knows?
What? No, knows what
of that whole situation of how the mom died, that she triggered and startled the woman with the gun?
Well, that's actually what I was going to say next, is because he when they had that conversation, he said there's a lot of things we need to talk about, and I don't think he necessarily knows that what happened with that whole situation. I think it's similar to what happened with her interaction with Hope, in the sense that she didn't tell her all this time that yes, I played a role in what happened to our mom, and I think that maybe that's the same way the situation was with the father, where she never told him this stuff, but maybe he kind of feels with how that whole situation, how as a father, I'm sure he's thinking, I can't believe she went through all this stuff, but he doesn't really know the full story of what happened with that whole thing. And that's the whole reason why she wants to continue with this journey to find him, because they have to have a heart-to-heart conversation about all this stuff.
And also, she can't lose two parents. And not in the sense that you can't, but mentally, she's acting out because of, I feel, of what happened with the parents and the struggles and that everybody goes through. And she's a teenager. On top of that, the father knows that she's struggling with something. Maybe it's not exactly due to how the real way of how the mom died, but she lost a parent, and she's struggling and she's acting out in these ways, and you see that they have this connection. And there's a whole scene with the stink bomb and the science fair, like, well, I would have used this and this. That little weird kind of bonding thing that they had together. So you see that there's a real genuine love and connection, and you can see that she's struggling with something. Just overall, her mother is dead. So for me, it was very important scene.
Well, another part that makes it even more important is the part where the dad says, hey, listen, don't worry about it. I figured out a hidden way to communicate while I'm over there. And so I about it, Iris and Felix. And she seems to be taken back, like, oh, Felix. And he's like, yeah, but then here's the key part. He says, he's family. I'm like, huh. So is he adopted also? Did he adopt him as well?
Well, remember, we touched on this the last episode. When he got thrown out of his house, he
Mm-hmm.
ran back to the university, and he found the professor there, and
Yeah.
he basically took him in,
Yeah, I guess so. I guess he really did take him.
and
He
he
wasn't
raised
just.
him.
Yeah, he
He took
raised
him
him.
in.
Yeah.
It's this family of kids, and that's kind of why
Hmm.
they have that connection, and why he is the legal guardian,
Yeah.
because they were all together.
So there you go. And he even said, he said, see, I can do some bad things too, because that's sort of like breaking the rules. Because remember, that's the rule that Elizabeth said. Once people go over there, they can't talk to the outside. Just have to focus all in. All right. So the next part here is we're back with Felix and Elton. They find another room. They kill the crawling walker, and it's very anticlimactic. I thought there was going to be something big happen here. This was nothing.
That was important because the crawling walker, remember, she had the green hair.
Hmm.
She was the girl from when they did the flashback of how the school.
That's what I was waiting for. That's what I brought up. That's what it was.
So that's when they did the slow mo. Remember, and it was the black kid that was walking down the hallway, and he kind of like passed by. No, it was
Yeah,
the
yeah,
girl
yeah.
walking down the hallway.
She walked past
and
him.
the black guy was like, "Oh," and she was like, "Ooh," and so you saw the distinct green hair. So then that way, when they cut to the present and the walker, her hair was green.
Oh, okay. There you go. I knew there was a reason for it. And I was like, I'm not getting it, but that was it. It's the
Yeah, Iris
attention
had
to
like
detail.
that sad look because she could see that she was young and that she was like a student age to be a part of that school. She was like, oh, that kind of sadness.
Oh, yes. All right. So, yeah, this is where they find all that. And again, we go into another little dialogue back and forth with Felix really trying to put the pressure and convince Elton, hey, we got to go back. He shows a tattoo. He said this is a reminder of all the people he lost. And he knows that Elton has lost many people also, and that there's no real reason to take this risk. Let's just go back. And I don't know. I don't know how I feel about all this. Both of them putting the pressure to go back, because we know it's not going to happen. That's the thing. As a viewer, we know it's definitely not going to happen, or else the show doesn't progress. He even says it at some point. He was like, "Well," and we'll get to that later, that part. But I don't know. They're really hammering it home and pushing this on both ends. All right. But the next scene is an interesting one. A lot goes on here. So we are back with Silas and with Iris, and they're in that gymnasium. And Iris says, "Hey, he found some stuff." Now, before I didn't bring it up because I was like, well, there's no point. But you guys remember, do you think there's a quick point when Iris found the flyer, and there was also some paintbrushes, and she wasn't going to take them, but Silas was like, no, take them. Why not? And put it in her bag. Do you think that's going to play a part at any point?
She's an artist.
She is an artist? Holy
Yeah.
shit, I'm missing all kinds of stuff.
She's not like, full-blown Picasso, but she's a little artist.
See, then why wouldn't she just take them? Just take them. If you're an artist, if I'm an artist, I'm taking it. If I'm a photographer and I find a camera, I'm taking it. I'm not going to say, well, I don't know if I need it. No, you take it. But whatever. Anyway, that was just something to glance over. So you think, all right, I didn't know that part. She was an artist. Anyway, they're in the gym, and this is cool because he says, and this is old, and it probably tastes like shit. He says, "Oh, look, I found some soda in a can." She's like, "I never had soda in a can." And she cracks it open, it does the fizzle pop. I don't think after 10 years or whatever it would do that. It would be flat as hell.
No,
It would taste.
Never had Mountain Dew and Surge?
Oh yeah. It would taste horrible.
No, it will taste just brand new.
No,
Mountain Dew
it
and
will
Surge.
not. I've had flat soda. I'm
Never
sorry.
had Surge.
I've had flat soda in a can. You got to remember, cans, even bottles and cans, they have dates. They tell you, right? Rich, you know about this, right? You know about the dates on cans, soda.
Oh yeah, expiration.
There you go. That's what I'm saying. There's an expiration date. I'm telling you, if it's been under the bleachers for 10 years, come on now. There's no way. But she was loving it. She was like, "Oh, this is great," and I get it. Now, well, whatever. They drank it. They're having a good old time. They're talking about life. This is where Iris starts doing her little confession. She was like, "You know what? It reminded me of a Breakfast Club moment where she was like, I worked too hard. I pushed myself too hard. I wish I could have had more dances. I wish I could have attended dances." We don't know. Were there dances at the university that she wasn't part of? She starts talking about.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I'm going to assume that they were different committees, and she was a part of, the welcoming. Remember the CRM thing?
Mm-hmm.
She's kind of like that part of the committee. She's not part of the like, let's go have fun, pizza. I don't know.
But that's the
Pizza.
thing. But sort of like what we touched on earlier, we don't even know if that part of the fun exists at the
Right, but
university.
for Iris, the thing for Iris, even from very the beginning, which is why she's on this journey, she is the straight lace A student. I'm going to concentrate on whatever environmental science and technology, and I'm not going to do things like that's creative or the prom dance or even whatever. She has that thing where she knows what she wants to do, what she's going to accomplish, and she does it straight path. She doesn't allow herself to have that kind of fun, which is why she decided to go on this journey, because it's something that she would never do. She's stepping out of her comfort zone. So for her to even say, I should have been a contender, it really made sense to me.
Yeah, I guess. But it was like, all right. So they started talking about that whole thing, and she was like, "Oh, if I remember, yeah." She says this is the part where she wants to hear a song. She was like, "Oh, you promised me a song," and I don't remember him ever saying that. So I guess this happened just off.
Last episode.
She mentioned it. God damn! Did I not watch that shit?
Explanation with the tape. With the tape.
Yeah, I remember that, but I don't remember him promising that she can
It
listen
wasn't
to
like
him.
a promise, but she stated it. It was like, it was a way of breaking the ice, because he always was listening to it. And she's like, oh, can I
Yeah.
listen?
So yeah, so she said it. She was like, "Well, you said if we're safe now. Can I listen?" And she was like, "All right." So she had trouble figuring out how to put the headphones on, which is funny. Like, it's just headphones. How far back? How disconnected are you?
I don't know if it was the fancy ones that just loop around.
I don't know if it was that fancy, but so he plays it, and it's a waltz. And I'll bring it up when you guys are discussing, because I did bring up the name of the track, But it's a well-known track, and she was like, "Oh, I didn't picture you being in this type of music," and he was like, "Oh, no, it was my grandma's favorite song. This is what she liked to listen to," and he says that, and this is again, we can try to put pieces together of his past, because he says, "Well, I would go with my grandma to the senior center." So the grandma would go to the senior center, or did she live there? I don't think she lived there because she was taking care of him, but she'd visit. But whatever. Yeah.
You
But
know they have like senior center, the centers that have like fun activities.
yeah, no,
Mingling.
but the ones that I've gone to were for my grandparents, and they lived there. They
No,
were living there.
because
Clearly, she was raising him, so she did not live there.
You'll
But
see with the whole-
yep. But she said he was like 4 years old, and they would go to these dances. She was like, "Oh, you know how to dance." She was like, "All right, we're gonna do this. Let's dance." So I guess she knows how to dance. She was all into it. She was like, "Come on, let's do this." And he was like, "Okay." So then they have that little moment, which actually throws in a little, like a weird fantasy. That's what I wrote down, a fantasy moment for this flashback, because they're dancing, and then eventually they start getting in the groove, and they're doing their waltz dance, and then you can see the gymnasium fill up with people, and everyone dressed up, and everyone's dancing, and now it's like a dance. It was an interesting moment. They're definitely building something with these two. So what did you guys think of this? This was a big moment for this episode, and it's a big scene. Rich, did you like it? Did you feel this whole thing felt genuine? This connection that they're building between Iris and Silas? Oh, Rich?
Yeah, I believe, I believe I said on the last episode that feels as though there's a bit of a connection, or perhaps maybe Silas is crushing on her.
I think it's mutual at this point.
Well, yeah. But I will say, we'll see where they take this whole relationship. But I definitely felt that. I felt something from that, from that exchange that they had. So, yeah, the whole dance thing. I know you enjoyed that scene, Adam.
Right, dancing. I don't know. I'm giving it. It's. I don't know. I just, again, you know how I feel about all this. I feel like everything is too laid back. This is too laid back. They're not really portraying the dread and the horrible situation that they're in.
Well, no, they can't panic all the time.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. I know I would. I would be in full blown panic mode. I'm telling you, the survival panic mode. I wouldn't say, you know what, let's just sit here and chill for no reason. Remember, they were sent out to go find supplies. And they're like, all right, there's one door, there's a walker, a single walker, and then there's another door, and that's just blocked. Well, I guess we just sit here and drink soda pop. I was like, no, go back the way you came, and then go find some other shit. Come on now. This is work. This ain't hangout time. Daylight's burning. Do you want to stay in here the entire night? I don't think they do.
No, because that by what you're saying, that means that we can't build on a story because it's just searching and looking for things and they just keep walking. It turns into Lord of the Rings after a while. So no, by them taking that moment, they're able to bond. It was a very sweet little thing of like, oh well, I kind of regret what I being so straight laced and not having more fun, and him really finding that genuine connection before he kills everyone. So I thought
okay, there you go. Yeah.
I thought it was sweet. And it kind of that little scene with the dancing and the waltzing. Oh, it was kind of like, it felt like weird and out of place, but it was a nice little fantasy moment. It reminded me of Anastasia.
Yeah. Well, there was another scene here after this where we get into it, Hope and Huck, and they're doing their thing, and they're now going into the basement. Because, why not? Let's go in the basement. It's dark, they have the flashlights, and we hear the growl. We know something's going on. And sure enough, we see it. It's a wolf. You'd be like, big dog. I think it's a wolf. It's a wolf. And Huck, from being in the military, and I guess just hunting or just out in the wilderness, she has a feeling because they quickly turn around back, they close the door, and they're like, what's going on here? It's like, I think it's protecting its cubs. I think it's protecting them because it's not attacking. It was just standing guard, like it was protecting. And they need to get past it or to the side to get to another hallway where there's another gate. So they open up the door, and then Husk just pretty much just stays calm and makes eye contact and just like keeps slowly moving the other way, just showing like, we're not going towards you, we're going this way, and they get through the gate with no issues. This is the part, I think, Rich, you were saying that this was underwhelming, right? Because I figured this was going to be a big part, that we were going to see maybe there was a whole wolf pack, they're going to get chased, there's going to be a lot of screaming, one of them is going to get bit.
Yeah. I mean, I know. I believe Dana had mentioned earlier that it needed to be a realistic threat. So I understand with the decision to have the wolf. I just thought that they were building to something a lot more challenging because of the fact that because of how they introduced it. You saw when they first showed that there was something there. You saw there was a walker that got dragged back into a room. So I figured, well, this is probably like something that is obviously more dangerous than the walker. Mm-hmm. And the wolf is dangerous, but it's just I was a little underwhelmed. Not so much now when they revealed it. I said, oh, well, okay, this is a new threat, but. We didn't see that wolf again later, though.
No, and that's the other thing also, and it's like when they brought it with the cubs, and I did see that part with the dragging, but I'm like, a wolf is not going to drag a dead body. That's not fresh meat to bring two cubs. You don't do that. They're not going to eat it. They don't eat it. They don't. It's rotted corpse. It's not going to do that. They won't do it unless it's a fresh kill.
It was fresh because if it's old,
it's dead. It's not what I mean. It's fresh. It's a fresh empty. It's still dead. It's not like it was a human. If it was a human they just killed, that's fresh meat because it's still warm blood. Everything is still fresh. This is a rotted dead corpse, walking corpse.
You have to adapt, and you
have to adapt.
No. Zombies.
Because if anything, the truth, and we all know this, that wolf would have attacked any one of them because it's like, damn, fresh meat. And if it did have cubs, like, that's fresh meat right there. I see that human like a gazelle, and I'm going to take it down. That's it. That's. We should have seen something like that. I'm sorry.
Well, you know why the wolf didn't attack them, though, right?
Well, they didn't approach. They stood back and they
They didn't approach, and the writer also said, no, don't attack the wolf. Just stand there and look threatening.
Well, we know on TV it's always a touchy topic or any kind of image to show an animal getting killed, even if the animal is threatening. So many times we've seen an animal attack, and the person is trying to survive, and then they kill the animal, and then animal rights activists start jumping all. How dare you promote this? It's like the animal. You don't know the animal was just fearful of his life. Remember, the animals are scared of humans more than blah 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 blah. What happened to just crazy? What happened to just rabies? You know, it's like shit. I've watched those old DVD specials when animals attack. I'm telling you, they go crazy. Right? What happened to just crazy, like Chris Rock said? Just crazy kids. Crazy animals. All right. Well, let's just keep going here. All right. So let's see. Where are we up to? So we do. All right. So now we get to. Well, it's sort of winding down. So we get to Felix and Elton, and they get close, and they hear. I guess I don't know if they hear music or they hear laughing, and they're approaching another gate, which no one saw this gate. I don't remember seeing this gate to this gym. Did you see this before? When Iris and Silas were looking at the different entrances and stuff? I don't think they ever showed this, but whatever. You see Felix and Elton there, and they start banging them. It's like, hey, we're here. And so they approach Iris and Silas, and like, oh, whoa, this is great, but there's no other way to get in because that's locked, and they're trying to figure out. And Elton and Cyrus are like, oh, well, there's another way. You have to go downstairs and do it like a little loop to get through, but there's a walker, and then there's another door, and that's welded shut or whatever. And he's like, all right, well, just stay put. This is Felix. Stay put. I'm gonna go and kill that walker, and then I'll be right back. And this part really pissed me off also. I get pissed off easily with these things because I'm like, why are you going to be right back? There's nothing in the gym. You just saw them dancing. They're bullshitting. There's nothing there. Like, they just tell them to leave. Let's meet up somewhere else. Whichever way you came in, get out that way. There's nothing useful there. So why does Felix and Elton need to go into the gym? Did that question pop up in your head when you saw the scene? When he was like, all right, wait there. I'm going to do it. I'll be right there. Don't leave. Why? There's nothing in the gym. I can understand if you found a room full of supplies. Like, hey, we need to break this door down. Like, they didn't even mention that door to the teacher's lounge that was welded shut. Or whatever. Something going on with the door and they couldn't get in. They didn't even mention that.
Well, I guess it was just the excitement that they saw, those are people in our party, so we need to get back in their vicinity ASAP. I mean, I don't know, because I guess they were trying to find a way around to get in. So then they went on about their way to try to find another way, and I don't have any explanation. I don't know, but maybe Dana has a better explanation.
Dana, what did you? I just feel like maybe these are the little plot holes, or these are just things that they just fail to mention, because it's right there from me in my mind. This scene would have gone like this. Hey, this is Cyrus. All right, we're Iris. We're here. All right. Felix, did you find anything useful? He didn't even ask that. I was like, hey, did you find anything? Remember, we're here for supplies. You're over there bullshitting, dancing, doing googly eyes. What the hell? I was like, because remember, he's the straight and narrow, hey, this is how we have to get things done. We're here for supplies. She could have said, well, we found this lounge, teacher lounge. There could be something in there. You know, teachers, and they keep things in the room and the food and things like that. Could be something in there useful. We need to break this door down, try to get in. All right. Then I'm going to try to find a way. What, there was a walker down the way down, this and that. Okay, don't worry. I'll clear that path. Wait there. I'll be right back. All right, cool. Now we have a reason for them to get in there, because there's no other reason. If you're not going to mention that with the teacher's lounge in his room, and you just see these two kids just hanging out, like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, nothing. All right, then get the fuck out. Let's go. Let's go find another room. We have to keep searching for supplies before we lose daylight, because we're not spending the night here. That's just as me. Dana, what? Were you on that same page, or are you just whatever?
I was just going with the flow.
God damn. See, I take this shit too serious. I take it too serious. I'm telling you. Oh, man. All right. So, what? See, that just threw me off now.
Sorry. But to me, it was just like, just to go with the flow kind of situation. I think, again, you're thinking like a very strict thing, and that's not what's going on here.
Yeah, I guess. So,
if that's the case, then,
then all right. So then, maybe you saw something out of this that I didn't see. So when we see Huck and Hope, and they go into a room and they find that other walker crawling, and Huck says, "I'm going to kill it. Don't worry. There's a bunch of supplies in this room. You start filling up the bag." Was that the walker? Was that someone that we saw before in a flashback?
From the flashback.
That's the dude? That was the dude?
From my understanding, it was.
They were the only two kids that were still in there? What's the chances? the two we saw on
Built
the.
the story to let you know what happened in the past. They gave us a whole scene of, googly eyes, and I'm just a regular student, and then now I'm a walker. I'm dead. Sadness. Because that's how the kids could have ended up. You wanted that normal childhood life as to what they had, and now they're dead. Be grateful for what you have.
Yeah. All right, so whatever. So while the two was Silas and Iris, they're just hanging out, doing whatever they were doing at the gym. This is again sort of what you brought up, Rich. I heard a growl. I don't know if you heard it. I heard a growl, right?
Yep.
We never saw the wolf.
Yeah.
I don't know how the wolf would have got to that area past, because with Huck and Hope, they closed the gate behind them. They first closed the first door, and then they closed the gate behind them, pretty much locking that wolf there, unless there's multiple wolves. But that doesn't come up. Spoiler, there was only one wolf, and that was it. So we hear a growl, and they start freaking out. I'm like, we can't stay here. We got to go. So then they start looking at that door that had the walkers there. I would say, plural, because I thought there was multiple walkers. Comes to find out there's only one. Really? You're scared of just one? I mean, empty, I should say. I keep saying walkers. The empty. So they come up with a quick plan. All right, Silas, you open up the door, and when it comes walking out, Iris will just keep stepping back and lure it out, and then just do a nice little quick run past, and then we can close the door. And poof, ta-da! And he's like, yeah, let's do it. And within a matter of seconds, that plan gets put into action, and it works. Why didn't they think of doing this shit before? Why? I know people are probably like, you know what? I'm putting a down vote. Adam's being too bitchy about this. Down vote on all this. No, but again, these are just things I feel, they're just common sense at certain points. And if you're in this room and you can't go into the teacher's lounge to get supplies and there's nothing useful there, then yeah, let's go down the next hall. We have to find, if there's a walker, how many do you see? I see one. There's two of us. We have weapons. We can take out one.
So I have a very calculated answer to this question. You ask, why did it happen at this moment? Because this is what we call writing for television, where something happens at the very end, but we have to go through the whole roundabout process to get there. Otherwise, the show would not be an hour long.
Yeah, like filler. That's basically what you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, but I just want to say one thing. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily a bad thing for me, because again, they dived into a lot of the backstory of Hope and her father in this episode. You got to see how.
Oh yeah, no, it's not all bad. It's just some of what what they build up as action scenes. Throw the quotes up there, or those type of tension moments where we expect something, like with the wolf, when they first encountered the wolf and they closed the door and like, oh my god, we're like, all right, this is it. There's gonna be something going on, and then it's a dud, nothing happens. And here's another one. It's like, all right, they now know something's coming. We heard a growl. All right, I'm expecting that it'll come from a hole or something, and we'll see that it's in the gym right behind them. All right, we got some urgency. We have to get out. That doesn't happen. They open up the door, and it's just one walker and one empty. And they just come up with like, all right, well, you hold the door, and then I'll just sneak around it, and poof, we got there. There was no there's no action involved. There was no conflict. It was smooth sailing, and it just there was a lot of that. A lot of this was just smooth sailing. Nothing really built up to anything. So at least not until this point. So once Iris and Silas get around the walker and they go into that room, they close the door. They start walking through. It's pitch black. But, ta-da, Silas finds a flare. I don't know what this flare was doing in this hallway, but he finds a flare, and he turns it on. And then I was like, I get it. This is to set the mood, right? So he turns it on. They're walking through. It's pitch black, really dark. Now we're hearing all these empties all around them. There was another room, and there was a bunch of them in there, and they tried to close the door. There was another room that had some in there. They closed that. They're like, all right, we got to get out of here. Right. And they run down to the hall, and then once they get to the hall, that's when we noticed that one of them, did it squeeze through? How did the empty get into the hallway after they closed the doors? Rich, did you see that? Did you see
I thought, I thought, if I recall, I believe that he did squeeze through.
that was it? He just squeezed. I'm like, how is this? Really? This is... you could tell, you'd be like, I don't know. From what we've seen in prior Walking Dead series, they're just mindless, dumb walking. They're not coming up with ways. This isn't like a Land of the Dead or anything. They're not coming up with a strategy. All right, I'm gonna try to get underneath this fence or whatever. They just bump into the object until they figure something out. Like they just go through, like just fall through it. They don't. This looked like he like squeezing through, like he was like grooving through it. And I'm like, what? Really? I don't know. Dana, were you cool with this whole thing?
Yeah. Here's the thing. It's a theory. Stop now. Here we go now. Okay, so without spoiling into what we're going to talk about later on, I think that not all walkers are the same. And we'll get to that when we see what happens at the end. Which is why we're having walkers who are able to do different things differently. And remember when there were certain walkers that the CRM was painting a certain color, and they were saying, we're tracking their migration. But later on, I think we'll find out what exactly is going on and how it pertains to the walkers and why there are some walkers who are acting out of character.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll get into mutated walkers. Who knows? We'll see. But what we do find out is that the door that Iris is banging on, because at the end of the hallway there's a door, and of course it's locked, they can't get through it. And they're banging on it, and it just so happens to be the same door that's in the room with Hope and Huck. So they hear it, and they're like, oh, Huck's like, no, don't worry about it, we're going to get you out, just stay put. That's not really an option, because now we got the empties, they're walking down the hall, and this is where, and I wrote down in my notes, Festus moment. Rich, you would know this moment. Even Dana, you're a wrestling fan. You know Festus. Remember Festus? When the bell would ring? This is a WWE reference. When the bell would ring, this dude would just go... He would go nuts. There's Gallows, if they know, from the brothers, the Good Brothers. And that's what I pictured right here, because here it is. He's been pretty passive with the whole thing, not wanting to kill and all this. But all of a sudden, he just, once he sees the urgency, she's banging on the door, freaking out. He's got this empty approaching them, and he says, they just keep coming. And he just goes up to this thing. He stabs it right in the head. Instant kill shot. Like, all right, cool. This is it, right? This is where we get into that moment. But that's not it. There's another one coming. And then this one's coming, and this is where we get the flashback. This is the flashback. And this is the flashback where we find out where he's sitting down and he's hearing voices. And it's pretty much like the kids and stuff talking about it. And it's like, oh, I heard his mother even testified against him in court. And he's hearing all this chitter chatter. And then you see like weird cutscenes again, sort of like of him pounding on somebody. Weren't sure what was going on. But then they go into the real time and we see, and he just pulling a ground and pound MMA style. He just banging on this thing. He's punching and screaming and punching to the point that this is the only time Iris really showed like emotion on her face. And the fear. She's like, oh no. She's oh, Silas, stop. And she started banging on the door even more. So, and I'm sure on the other end, they're trying to freak out. I was like, oh my God, what's happening? Because he just starts screaming, oh, he's just punching this thing. The door opens. We see also that Elton and Felix it was also behind that door with Hope and Huck, and then Elton comes running over to help or grab. I don't know what the hell he's trying to do to calm him down, but come on now, this guy is going all at it, and Silas wasn't having any of that. He just shoved him off. It's like no, and he just kept punching, and then eventually Felix screams and it's Silas, and just like the bell turned off, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And that was it. And I'm like, he was like, oh, my bad. I must wash my hands now. Excuse me. That's what I was expecting to follow after this. Because, damn, he just let loose. So, I mean, Dana, you're laughing. What did you think of this scene? What did you think? This is a big moment for Silas.
You left out moments and parts that
I can't. I'm not going to go through every step by step. What did
This
I
is
leave
what
out? What key moment did I forget about?
during his whole like flashback fit of rage, it goes and shows what happened, clips of what happened during that incident.
That's what I said. It was like weird clicks, and we see it. It was like,
No, but here is the most important part. Well, we know what we've seen from the other episode of him like beating someone. It looked like the death, and it wasn't a walker. It was an alive person. It showed the his hands. This one included a clip of him being choked, literally almost to death. And they were hands, which regular hands, which I don't think were walkers. Which him, the life was being squeezed out of his neck, and him having to fight back. So I don't think that this is a kid who like, I hate you, grandma, and just started killing everyone. This is a scene where he was actually provoked, and it was a life and death situation, and it was probably self-defense. And what we know is he came from an abusive household. And
well, we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. But all right. So
the poop hit the fan. So with this scene, we finally see Elton. For me, I still go with the theory. He's one of those like serial killers, and Silas is one of those little nice sweet teddy bears. Something happened to him where he's trying to not be what he was in that past, and that it triggered him. I don't know if it was through the yelling. I don't know if it was the walker crawling or what, but it triggered him, and that was like, yes, because if you're gonna have just a bunch of kids kind of being bland and oh no, I'm scared. Oh, you're gonna have a boring show. So you're gonna have to have some kind of elevation or some type of different things that's going on where he can just snap like that. And when he was, everybody was screaming and yelling, he was so much into that zone where he took Silas and just threw him like a rag doll.
I mean, Elton,
I'm sorry. He took Elton and just ragdolled him, and he hurt his arm or his wrist or whatever.
Suck it up.
It wasn't until Felix started, that manly scream of "Stop it!" that it snapped him right out. So I thought it was excellent. I loved it. Yay.
Rich, what did you think? This was like the big moment. This was the big tension moment, the big fight moment of this episode. What did you think?
Honestly, in my personal opinion, this was the most entertaining moment for me the whole episode. And I laughed when I saw this. Now, I do want to say this. All the points Dana made, I agree 100% with. But I also want to piggyback and add this. If you recall, he had a conversation with Iris after this.
Yeah, we'll get there. Yep, we'll get there. We find out.
But that pretty much also reveals that it is implied of who he potentially killed in that conversation. Yep. But yeah, I thought this was great. That's all I had to say.
It was great, and it just shows that he knows how to open up a can of whoop ass, and you need somebody to pull that off in the group, and that's what I said. I said, you know what, he's got some rage. We saw that in those flashbacks. We know he's got that rage, but can he let loose on these walkers? Is this it? Is this something he can do? And yeah, I mean, the empties, and he can do it. He can do it. So the next few scenes, this is just trying to tie up the storylines for a lot of these characters. We get Hope and Iris. They get their moment. Hope says, are they okay? Are they good? Because they haven't really had a chance to talk again after the last episode where Hope revealed that she takes the blame for the mother's passing because of startling the woman with the gun and that whole thing. And Iris pretty much tells her, we should have talked about it before. We should have been talking about this. Well, what happened to Mom? But, they're sisters. So they'll get through it. They need to be together for all of this. We get another little moment with Elton and Felix, and then Elton just looks at Felix, and I guess especially with what just happened and seeing all that stuff, he's like, do you really know a way to get back to the university? Like, is there a direct path or somehow that we don't have to go through the BOG and do all that stuff? Do you know a way? And they just leave it at that, right? Because he's like, Felix like, well, yeah, there's a way to do this. I got a plan and this and that, but you don't ever hear Elton agree to that. He just listens. He's like, all right. But this is the key part of toward the end of this episode. And that's when Iris goes up to Silas, asks if he's okay. And then this is where Silas reveals it. And he says, hey, do you think I killed my dad? And she says the best possible answer that you could say in this moment. It's like, that doesn't matter. I do know that you saved our lives when you killed those empties. And that's what does matter. We're alive because of your actions. Mm-hmm. And there you go. That was, I think, a cool way of bringing it up, because we don't know the story of the dad. Clearly, everybody at that university over at the campus colony, they know the story. I don't know how they found this out. I don't think there's TV news or whatever or the internet, but they all knew. What?
Remember, it's news. Remember the whole scene with Julia Armand, and she's like, "Look at what we have," and she's like, "TV, radio, water."
Yeah, but I saw TV meaning as those were tapes. I thought she was just watching DVDs and stuff like that. They have electricity. I don't think it was live TV because where is that being televised?
They have a broadcast of something.
I don't know. They didn't bring that, but all right, yeah, we can go with that. Maybe that's how they found out.
Or,
I mean, I don't think it happened 10 years before when everything was normal, and then people sort of recognized this kid, because he was in a mental hospital for a while. He had talked about that.
Wouldn't that make news? And just, I don't know. I
don't know, but whatever. Everybody's, yeah.
I don't think you're gonna just suddenly stop news and TV.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna take a little bit until everyone dies off. That's just me. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I just thought it was pretty cool. I like the fact that she brushed it off. It's like, and it's true. At this point, it doesn't matter. I just know how you're reacting with me, how you're treating me, how you're treating the members of the group, and you saved our lives. So, you know what? The past is the past. That's it. You served your time at that mental hospital. They clearly let you out. Felix trusts you to give you a job and to bring you in, and I'm sure that has a big part to play with it because she trusts Felix. So, I think it all worked out. Rich, what did you think of the big reveal? Rich?
Yeah, sorry about that. Repeat that.
What did you think of the big reveal? The big reveal about the dad when Silas tells Iris, like, "Do you think I killed my father?" And she was like, "It doesn't matter about that. That doesn't."
Well,
matter.
yeah,
I figured that's what matters.
Yeah, I agree with what you said. That was a good way to basically discuss that situation. I mean, I knew they were eventually going to answer that question about more, but I think there's still more details that we will learn. And one point that I do want to add, because I know you said it's great to have someone like Silas a part of this team. I don't know if I would say that that is something where he could just flip a switch at any moment. Obviously, I don't believe he would do anything to Iris. But I mean, as the premise of this show is that there are some characters that are going to turn evil, I would not rule out this character still down the road. He could potentially turn against them. We have to see how the storyline plays out. But it is kind of dangerous to have someone on the team who can all of a sudden just change personalities, go ham, and then revert back to normal like that, because that can also be used against them. Well, we'll see. Again, we'll see.
Dana, you were going to say something?
I view him as, not sure if anyone here watched not Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones. To me, he's like the Hodor character.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but he's not that slow. Come on now. Come on. Hold the door. Hold the door. Nah.
Hodor was like, he just was touched. And
yeah, but this guy's not touched. I think, well, maybe he was touched, and that's why he beat his dad. But
no, but in the sense of, that very soft, mild-mannered kid who, despite his size, is very easy to be subjected to bullying, and we saw abuse. And he just kind of sticks to himself, and nobody pays any attention to him. Oh, that's the kid over there. He doesn't say nothing but mumbles.
I think what Rich is going off of, I think Silas grew up in an abused home. Clearly, when you saw the scene, real quick flash of it, it looked like he was getting choked. Maybe his dad was choking him. And he just had enough. He is a big kid. And he just said, forget it. I'm going to beat the shit out of him. And he went to town and he probably killed him. He just beat him too bad and he killed him. The mom took the side of the dad. Maybe she was also getting abused. But hey, it is what it is. She took the dad's side because we hear she testified against her son in court. He was a minor, so he can't go to jail. So they put him in a hospital for a while, and then he was released maybe to the custody of the parents or grandparents. That's how we hear the tape is like, oh, we haven't seen you in years. We're looking forward to seeing you. But I don't know. But then again, that doesn't add up now that I think back, because in that tape, he was 6 years old when he received that tape from the parents, and they said it's going to be great that you're living with us. I don't think he killed his dad when he was 6, because in the flashbacks we see him ground and pounding someone at this size and this age.
Well, we don't know how or what. Maybe it was one of those abusive situations where the grandparents took him out of the home, and they bonded, or maybe it was
he definitely has the most intriguing backstory out of all the kids here. He's the only one I really care about. Elton, I'm sure there's more to Elton.
Elton's a serial killer, so.
All right, but when it comes to the other ones, it's like whatever. It doesn't do it. So the last scene is the whole group together. This is another little thing we can mention. The whole time that they're in this school, we don't see like thunder and lightning or anything that we saw when they were entering the school. When Silas looked up, remember there was a storm coming. But when we see them in the gym, we don't see. We could see out the windows. It's clear day. It's a little cloudy, whatever, overcast, but there's no storm out there. And then when they're about to leave, they get all together for a group shot. Elton's like, hey, I want to take a group shot, just to document this moment. And he takes a picture of all of them. But we could see next to the door, again, it's clear as day. It's not raining or anything. They don't even bring it up. Like, hey, is this still storming? Can we go outside? None of that. No one brings up, hey, by the way, I found a wolf downstairs in the basement. There might be more. Did anybody come? These are things, because usually wolves travel in packs, right? That's what we were taught as in school. That's much. But they take that picture, and then that's it. That's the closing of the episode.
No, it's a sweet time. You could just a sweet. Even the photograph reminds me of, here's the group as we once were, and then as we progress, things are going to start just going completely bonkers, and then yay.
All right.
It's always those moments where it's like, if you look at any, just consider this kind of like a horror movie.
Do you think, so then under that idea then, do you think this series is going to get dark?
Yes. It's going to get dark. That photo for me was one of those foreshadowing moments where it's like how we were, and everyone's like, yeah, and you have like...
Yeah, they're smiling. They seem to be okay. They're like, yeah, things are all right. I mean... Yeah. We'll see. Definitely somebody's going to leave the show. Something's going to happen. I mean, that's how this works. It's just Walking Dead, people. This isn't, one of these sitcoms or one of these shows where it's like, oh, we have a cast and we're all going to remain together forever, for the remainder of the run. No. We know something's going to happen. Some of these cast members are going to fall off. And I'm sure there's people out there already looking up some of these guys on IMDb to see what other projects they're working on and trying to do the time and the window. It's like,
two seasons, so
that
we do. But
yeah, but that doesn't mean they're all going to last for the 2 seasons. Somebody's going to drop off this year. No doubt. There's no doubt.
Season finale's dropping.
All right. I don't know if you guys want to talk about the little snippet for the next episode. Because I know, Dana, you kept bringing it up.
You forgot the ending.
Yeah, there is one thing I do want to say about the end credits, the after credits scene. No, continue.
What did I forget? They took the picture.
No, this is why I do what I do.
Yeah, that's why she's telling you to keep watching.
What did I tell you to watch? The lab. We go to the lab where the father of the 2 daughters is supposedly working with CRM. Remember, they're doing that project, and you there's no in and there's no out. What we see is there's a woman sitting down eating her very voluptuous sandwich. Like, that sandwich was distracting.
Yeah, it was a very big sandwich.
It was a good sandwich, big. And on the desk, we see the scientist. We see it was Dr. Samuel Abbott. It was the father, and it was 2 other doctors. And then it pans into what looks like something out of like a secret lab thing where they're walkers and they're strapped up into this device where they're standing and they're testing their endurance and the different things that to see if they mix certain kind of, I don't know, chemicals or some kind of bodily fluid in order to kind of not to kill them, but to see if they can reverse and get the cure. And it's not taking. It's the zombies or the walkers, whatever you want to call them, the empties are having different reactions to it. Which is why I go back and say, remember how the walker from inside of the school able to travel and know exactly what to do, because I feel that these are certain experiments that's going on, and they're trying to find a cure, but instead they're end up they're having their senses are coming back and they're able to think.
I mean, well,
Or
how far can they go with that? What are they going to try to bring these things back to life, to like normal, and just have like, is this going to be like when my kids watch that zombie show where it's these high school kids and they put a band on their wrists and it allows them to be semi-normal as long as they have their band and they can go to high school with people? Is this what we're going to see? We're going to see zombie bodies talking?
I think that we're going to see an experiment that goes completely awry. And also, the most important part, the person that they was experimenting on was Dr. Abbott.
Yep.
Was the guy in the picture. So they're testing on scientists. Either, I don't know if they turned or if they're holding them kind of prisoner and using them as like what do you call it, a subject. And when they showed the picture next to Dr. Abbott was the father. So I don't know if they're traveling down that line, and the next person to be experimented on is the father. But that is what it left us with.
And I watched the credits, after credits. I didn't get that far. I don't know. I saw the next. It was like the next
it's right after the credits.
45 minutes and 45 seconds. I texted you that.
Yeah. Yep. And I just want to add one little point in here. I do believe that is a for the viewers, that is foreshadowing. Well, this could be the fate of what could potentially happen to the father. But the one thing I do want to say about this scene is that I would have loved to have seen when they was calling for the next patient that they were going to do their test on. I would have loved to have seen the same officer that Elizabeth dismissed in the previous episode.
He was the one that they call in.
That he was one of the people that they were going to experiment on next. I would have loved to have seen that, because then that will show you already knew that she was a bad person, but then it shows you, because that guy was very clear when he said, I'm not going to do things the way you want to do it. So I would think you want to take that person out. You don't want to, you want to do something very dangerous to that person. But that's my only thing. But yes, that was a very interesting scene. You need to watch it, Adam.
Yeah, I just don't see the logic behind converting your scientists. These are the smart ones. These are the ones you want to protect and keep around. You don't want to convert them and start running tests on the scientists.
These are people who are calling out and saying there's something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And you, as whatever government thing you are, you want to keep that silent. You don't want to have people reach out and say, oh, these people, you really shouldn't listen to the CRM. They're really bad. Remember the messages that the father sent with the facts.
Yeah, he doesn't feel safe. He says
He doesn't feel safe. Something's not right.
I do want to ask a question to you, Dana, and you can also answer this, Adam. Would you be surprised if Hope and Iris's mother returned as a walker, as a part of this experiment, that then now they have to take?
I would. She was in a different location, different time.
It was a different time.
Yeah.
He actually had to travel to the CRM.
Yeah, he had to go over there.
I got you.
She wasn't in that area with them.
This is when they were kids.
Mm-hmm.
So
now we don't know if Felix knows the message that Iris and Hope know, that they received from the dad, that he said he doesn't feel safe.
Yeah, they know. They had the discussion.
They told Felix? I don't remember them telling Felix.
They told Felix.
Oh, they did. They told him in the room when they said why they were. That's right, they did. So he does know. Okay. So he does know. So then that's the other thing that I don't understand, and why he wants to go back. Clearly, the father needs help. And if he sees him as a father figure himself, come on now.
Here's the thing. That's like me and you. Let's go and hack into the CIA building and rescue mom. How exactly? Yes, that may sound great in our head. How is that plausible? It's just us.
Well, it's not so much about the breaking in and doing like a one-man army, that type of thing. I think it's more of just showing up. If they just show up, maybe they think that... Because remember, they had that little discussion, at least Elton started talking about how advanced they are. He was like, hey, they're known as the hidden... Was it the hidden village or the hidden community or something like that? Because they have their own food supply. They're all self-contained, the Civil Republic. And that's what they're known for, being very self-contained. And so if they're that evolved, I think they may think, it's like, well, they have a large community. It's probably underground somewhere, and it should be okay. So maybe if they can just go there, it's like, hey, we're here. We just want to be with our dad. They don't think. I don't think they think that they're gonna get killed on site if they show up.
They don't think that they're kids,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They don't think that. They don't think it's that bad. And then you even heard with Felix talking about it. He was like, well, what do you think about them? And in that opening scene when they were just trying to figure out their own little theories. He's like, it can't be that bad. They want to help people, and your dad is out there with them trying to help the world. So, well, whatever. That was a powerful scene, and I thought I did because I did see the after credits when they talked about it, and I thought that's what you're talking about with seeing, this is what's going to happen in the next scene, and we see that they get into another altercation with the empties, and it looks, a dreaded moment. This is usually how they build up. It's like, dun dun dun, is something going to happen here. But whatever. But then again, you know what? It was cool then. All that part was cool. All right. We'll see. Because think about it. They're not gonna make it. They're not gonna make it to New York. If they're going to New York State and they're still near Nebraska in that area, and Dad's next in line to get converted. No, you're not making it. Goodbye, Dad. It's over. It's not like they're a few blocks away. But whatever. That's it. And speaking of over, this review is over. World Beyond, Season 1, Episode 4, The Wrong End of the Telescope. Thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for all the support. We will be back later this week for the next episode of Fear the Walking Dead. That's Season 6, Episode 3. That should be good. Let's see what's going on. I think this episode, and even in the hint for the preview, we're going to see what's going on with the other group, with Al and John and June and stuff. So that should be fun. All right, so again, thanks for all the support. This is the I Am Negan podcast, and we will see you next week. Or no, in a few days. Not even next week. A few days. Peace.